decide if Kasva's journey will end very abruptly.
Spawning in on the southern part of the map, it is going to be Wham01 playing as a Rus in red on the northern side. Kasva is going to be in command of the Abbasid dynasty in a blue. And we'll have to see how this is played from the Rus end of things, because as you can see, a dock is already coming up here for Kasva. Nothing out of the ordinary. But this is where you have to debate whether the Rus player is going to go fishing, which is something that we sometimes see from them, or are we going to see a much more land-focused and boar-focused build from them. If you take a look at the boar spots, there is actually a pretty favorable boar spot relatively close to the starting base of Wham. And I see a red dot close to a pond, so it looks like Wham is going to go for the fishing approach with the Rus here.
That is going to slow down his approach as well. Because remember, although you don't have to have your fishing boats return to drop off their food, the initial investment is a lot higher and it takes a lot longer to build them. It takes 38 seconds and costs 150 wood. Compare that to everyone else's, except for China's, 25-second build time with only a cost of 75 wood. It's quite the heavy burden to begin the game, even for a civ like the Rus that get more wood than others.
And do keep in mind that on the other side, you do have the Abbasid dynasty, which have a discount on their docks. So not only are you going to have a slower training on your Lodya fishing ships as compared to the standard fishing ships, it's also about the fact that your dock is delayed compared to the opponent. This being said, over time, the Lodya fishing ships will compensate for that, but the key thing here is over time. And if Kasva plays an aggressive early feudal age here, he could easily punish Wham01, who could be a little slower to feudal age because of this.
Yeah, I feel like Wham is sacrificing a good timing attack and offering up an opportunity for Kasva to unlock his potential in Castle. Because for Kasva to win this, he needs to access Castle. That's when, at that stage, Rus players don't think about normal archers, they think about horse archers. If they do that, you can go into camel archers, which discount that hand that the Rus put out pretty heavily. Yes, the cost is a lot higher for camel archers, but you have a big enough burdening economy that can support it. And on top of that, you're reducing a lot of damage coming out from the Rus. Also stops them going in knights. It's why the Abbasids were kind of this interesting pick that people explored back in the age of pew-pew ponies, if you remember, with the horse archers everywhere. Horse archers and knights were good, but with camel archers in the mix, it was quite easy to just offset the potency of that combination. And that was back in the days when the Rus were broken with horse archers because their attack speed wasn't correct.
And on this map, as you pointed out, camel archers could be a legitimate response to what the Rus can bring to the table, especially because camel archers are very food-heavy units. And what do you have a lot of in this map? Of course, food, because you do have that fishing eco fueling your economy. It's also worth discussing what exactly is going to be the wing that Kasva is going to age up with, because oftentimes, in fact, in most cases when we're seeing Abbasids on this map, we are not seeing the economy being utilized. You go for culture wing, maybe military wing even. What do you think about that?
So the military wing is quite an interesting one in some matchups. I don't think you want to lean that heavily on the infantry in this potential matchup. So culture just seems more natural of a choice. Off the back of that, I have to say keep drops are pretty potent on this map. A lot of the time you don't get a backwood spawn or you only get one. And because you're condensed in a certain direction, it's quite easy to block your opponent out with one good keep drop. It's something I've been seeing a few players utilize recently. And I wouldn't be surprised if we get to that territory if Kasva does safely arrive in the castle age.
Especially because if you take a look at how the map for Wham spawned, you have two forward wood lines. In fact, all of the wood is in the same direction. So as you pointed out, a keep drop could really be a potent answer here from Kasva to that map spawn. Looks like Wham is going to be successful getting to tier 2 bounty. Actually gets to 285 and he also has one more wolf to take down. So this is gonna be an easy 300 plus bounty game for him. Pretty nice start. But on the other side, what is Kasva aging up with? Is he not even aging? Wait a second.
He's taking his time.
Ooh. But yeah, look at the resources though for Kasva.
Yeah, he's going to be delayed because he's setting up boats. I think he's setting up quite a lot of boats actually.
He's very heavy on the fishing.
Yeah,
he could be beaten feudal age here pretty badly.
So he must be 2 ahead at least, I think, at this stage, because he would have built the dock sooner due to having enough wood to begin with. And Wham might have been delayed because typically you set up a lumber camp beforehand. And of course, now the build-up, like we said, these take a lot longer. 38 seconds each compared to 25 seconds. Makes sense that Wham should have less in the field. Love that he's able to reach up quicker. One of the cool things to consider when you're dealing with Rus, and I think it's more revealed when you play water hybrid maps rather than just, the good old maps of Warren Islands, for example, is because you hunt so much game, you get enough gold that you don't even have to touch a mining camp. You have to build that as 50 wood save. You don't have to get onto the gold. You can just fully fixate on wood and food on land. And that's why Wham is still able to get a very quick tech up timing as the Rus.
Also worth noting is the fact that Kasva is at 360 gold. So part of the reason why he's delaying his fuel age over here is because he's very heavy on the gold department. Makes me wonder what exactly he has on his mind. If he's going up with a culture wing, it might be possible he's just amassing gold for preservation of knowledge beforehand, but he's going economy wing over here. He is going to get wheelbarrow for himself eventually, but this actually makes me wonder whether we are going to see a fast... Ooh, there we go.
Attack ships, that's why. Yeah, it's double dock.
Oh, there we go.
Ships.
Yeah, I was just about to say, maybe he's going fast castle, but yeah, that's the other alternative. You're dropping double docks over here. With the Abbasids, you have a discount. There is the response, though, but Kasva's doing something very smart. He's sending the fishing ships to that corner, the corner where you would sneak the dock up, and he's going to notice this immediately. And we talked about this one. DAOs are not spectacular, but keep in mind that you have way better production over here because you have multiple docks. So if you can consistently produce ships on both of those docks, you can easily overrun the Rus player.
Okay, I can't let this one slip though, Lidakor. Did you just suggest an Abassa player was saving gold for fast casts?
I mean, it's not impossible. It would be a crazy thought, but I mean, Kasva and crazy are almost synonyms here when it comes to build orders in some cases.
I mean, if he did, it'd be good that he's crazy. We can get him checked out by a doctor very fast. It would be 3-0. I don't think I've ever heard someone say go fast castle like that. It would have been remarkable to watch. My thought was maybe wheelbarrow plus fresh food stuffs, but I prefer this. This is so much better to block out the dock. The cool thing for Wham, though, is he's not completely disarmed. If he scouts this out, which it looks like he has, he can easily now transition his fishing boats into attack vessels, and also keep in mind he's now setting up the northern dock where he'll have his new economy. Something that Kasva hasn't done yet because he's tripling down on the same corner.
The concern is that he's still just now reaching feudal age, and he's just getting delayed so heavily. As you said, he's mining a tremendous amount of gold. He will be able to pop out a lot of combat ships. The problem is that he's yet to start making the first one, whereas for Wham, the first Logia attack ship is already making an appearance. Looks like a tower is also coming up here for Wham. This is actually a really good move. You cannot punish that tower if you're Kasva right now, and that tower is going to help a lot with the firepower, compensate for the repair abilities of those docks. I'm not sure how much Kasva can accomplish with these docks on the southern pond, because that tower is going to help so much when it comes to just negating the repair effects.
It insanely sets him back. That's why he went for a double dock. Like, this isn't actually a good trade for you in the first place. You have to remember that DAOs, they do, I think it's 10 damage in bursts of 4. Compare that to Lodges that do 5 bursts of 8. So, like, overall, your damage is neck and neck, but, like, once you get the blacksmith involved, the attack ship takes the edge away. And on top of that, also remember that the Lodges cost less. It's 120 wood and 60 gold versus 180 wood and 90 gold. So this is just not going to end up a good trade for Kasva unless he has mass. And that's why he will at least be able to defend in his own lake, but he will not be able to aggress in WAMs.
Yeah, for now he's going to hold this off, but you have to keep in mind that cleaning up a dock is very painful and slow with these arrow ships. So it's going to take a lot of time until these DAOs get rid of that dock. In the meantime, it looks like Kasva's fishing eco is going to be safe. He also does have some scouts burning down that dock. Question is, what's happening on the southern pond? Looks like Kasva does have some ships queued up over there, but Vam, look at that. He's queuing up knights and horsemen behind this. This could be painful for Kasva. He's not expecting that, for sure.
Because remember, one of the big issues, one of the big poisonous elements of these corners is you get baited into them. You get tunnel vision upon them, and that's what Kasva's just done. He invests defensively, he invests aggressively. Where's his land up? It doesn't exist. And Wham off the back of this will be able to delay his assault into the southern pond while also recovering on the western pond and then aggressing on land. Something that Kasva is just not ready for.
And this is where the Rus can pull out one of their key tricks on this map. That is the Golden Gate. You have a ton of food to work with. You can easily turn that into either gold, or through the gold, you can get yourself some extra food if you need. The idea is that you can turn your excess food into other resources that you can utilize to get some knights onto the battlefield and then gain map control. Looks like Kasva's fishing eco is gonna be idle for some time, but on the other side, gold is now inaccessible for Kasva, and this is a concern because right now he won't be able to add any more combat ships for a while.
And now, if Wham can keep up that pressure, he can once again recover all of the lakes. This is the concern right now, is if you think about it, Wham willingly sacrificed the southern lake. He could have fought there. He could have done so efficiently. Lodger archer ships get built quicker, and they're cheaper. And thus he can outmass. And yes, it's 2 docks versus 1, but if he plays towards his opponent's side, he has got the assistance with the fortress, and if he plays on the defensive, he has the healing. It's why you can see he's starting to stack the map now, because once these DAOs are gone, Kasva can't afford new ones.
Exactly, but for the time being, Kasva does have a functional fishing eco and Wham doesn't, and that could give an edge here to Kasva. Now is a defensive tower on the gold mine, Horseman now moving in from Wham. Wham is adding archers though, so once again, on land he's one step ahead compared to Kasva. Kasva only has spears, and when the knights or horsemen plus archers arrive, that's where it's getting scary. And keep in mind that we're talking about a Rus archer build now, and this is something that is actually going to be, to a certain extent, reminiscent of how a Rus could play an archer build on land. But there is something we completely neglected behind this when I'm just now noticing it myself. There's a second town center for Wham.
Yeah. He's playing towards the center on the deer as well, so he's got good gathering rates. You're worried about his food, but he'll be fully recovered. And that's a proxy base to raid in from. I wouldn't be surprised in the next 2 to 3 minutes if we see siege engineering being pumped out as well. If you can get 1 or 2 rams in, Kasva doesn't have a good answer. Right now, it is only spearmen. And if we know something about the Rus, is that you do not build spearmen against them if you can help it. Because they will always bulk archers on land.
Exactly, as you pointed out, when you have an excess amount of food and wood with the Rus, you can just flood them with feudal age archers. We have seen that multiple times in the past on maps like Dry Arabia using boar. But when you have a good and functional fishing economy, that could also be your #1 food source when it comes to supplementing such an archer push.
It's more about the power of the wood more than anything else. Like, the food demand is quite low, 30 food for 50 wood. On top of that, the buildings cost 150 wood. If there's any civ that can get away with this, it's the Rus. The Golden Gate allows them to trade that little bit extra, but then on top of that, they get 20% additional drop-off via the Wooden Fortress influence. And that's what allows them to bump up so quickly with this timing attack compared to any other civ that would attempt it.
But there is not going to be any timing attacks over here in Feudal Age for Ram because he's working his way towards Castle Age. He also managed to deny a dock drop on the northern side by Kasva. This is looking grim for Kasva simply because he's gonna be now down by a town center and his opponent is getting close to Castle Age. And if we are seeing the Abbey as the landmark for Vam, he could also secure himself quite a lot of relics. If you take a look at the left side of the map, 4 relics right there with minimal army on the field for Kasva to deny those.
Some players in this situation even like to go for a high trade house because if they can get 4 relics for free, then they don't mind building a monastery and paying full price for 1 monk because it's just you're getting additional infinite income on top of what you're going to be gaining there. But it is going to be the Abbey, built up already. By the way, the reason that I'm loving what Wham's doing here is he's actually reacting and learning in the game on the fly. Think about hopping on the southern dock situation and how he fixed it on the northern one. Instead of relying on a static defense, he's had a Lodya ship patrolling up and down the coast this entire time to ensure he doesn't get bamboozled once again off of his fish.
And that sets him up with a safe food eco on the left side, so even though Kasva was able to deny the pawn on the southern side, that is just a delay that Vam faced. Ultimately, Vam still has the eco lead here. And you see, now with Castle Age in, Vam could even consider getting those key Lodya upgrades on the combat ships, and then potentially trying to reclaim control over the southern pawn. Kasva is now working his way towards a fishing eco on the south, also thinking about Castle Age, but here's the problem for him. Now if you want to get to Castle Age, you still need to wait for some more food to pile up, and then you need to wait 1 minute 45 seconds. You can't accelerate that, and while you're waiting for your Castle Age to kick in, you're gonna get raided on your wood lines by knights, and more importantly, Vam is going to start working towards horse archers, he's going to start working towards the relics, and you're going to fall behind quite substantially when it comes to just the potency of your army and your technologies.
And remember, those horse archers, they're going to come in so fast that on the back of that tech uptime he talked about, even once he techs up, he then needs the resources plus the build time to get mangonels. If he can't do that, the horse archers are unanswered. And he's at risk of trying to build these mangonels when horse archers are diving on top of him. So this is where things can get grim for Kasva. He needs a good transition, one that actually has effect here. And it might be one of these situations where you need some sort of range composite. Crossbowman could be his saving grace, but he needs to move fast.
Yeah, he needs to move fast. He's going up to Castle Age right now with the military wing. Behind this one, Vam has a safe fishing eco, and that's where those Rus ships really are kicking in. Horse archers securing the relics right now for Vam. He's got 1 in the bank already. And for Kasva, are we gonna see camel archers?
It's his only play now. Horse archers have been revealed. He has to play camel archers, but if he does that, he can't. Like, I don't think you can easily build up the mangonels because the demand's gonna be so high elsewhere. Like, you won't be able to sidestep into the wood and gold easily. But yeah, archer range, it has to be. It's literally the only thing you can do. When you see cavalry, full cavalry commitment out of the Rus, it's your biggest advantage. You can play camels. And remember, these camels are so much more powerful these days, and the Rus horse archers heavily discounted compared to what they used to be. This matchup isn't what it once was.
And it looks like a demolition ship actually pops off on the southern side, damaging 2 dows. But as we know, demolition ships are not what they used to be, so it wasn't able to sink all those combat vessels. Looks like Vam is gonna have to forfeit this dock for the time being, although would be intriguing to see him add a Springald and snipe down those ships, try to reclaim that pawn, because...
It's such a great tool. Like, it's kind of surprising how many people don't go towards it. The only reason I'm not expecting it straight away out of Wham is that right now he has no secondary justification for a Siege Workshop. If you're only building a Siege Workshop to kill those boats, it's a bad investment. He needs to see a range bolt that justifies him getting it from Mangonels as well. At that stage, it can get scary.
Yeah, he doesn't need that pawn, plain and simple. He benefits a lot more from just turning all his resources towards the land now. He's got a safe fishing eco, and he does have a remarkable eco lead, by the way. That is 18 workers equivalent of a difference.
Yep.
And, of course, behind this one, he's also gonna have 4 relics as things stand. So, he simply has no motivation to reclaim that southern pawn for himself. He's better off just securing the sacred sites and potentially even thinking about now starting to gather some stone and thinking about a pretty aggressive cast in the front of Kasva's base.
This is interesting. So Kasva's actually not going to go towards Camel Archers here. Despite the fact he has so much food coming in, he's going to go towards the Mangonels. He's building spears, he's getting phalanx, he's prepping himself for a bulk army that can build siege on the go, and the crossbowmen is going to be the solution coming out, the one we discussed earlier. I love this move. It addresses the horse archers, it addresses knights. And once you have infantry like this, you can also go into Mangonels if you aren't already peppering these horse archers down enough.
Exactly. We're also seeing a veteran spearman added over here. The question is, how is Vam going to respond to that? And the answer could be Streltsy, because we are going to see an Imperial Age coming in here from Vam. That's going to be a bonkers timing. We could see a sub 18-minute Imperial here from the Rus player. Actually adding stables. Could we just see 4 knights here, or what's the plan?
Knights with spears and crossbows showing feels like a poor choice. Horsemen could work really well, though. I think he just wants a way to outmaneuver, because remember that Kaz is going to siege, and I think with this play, like, Wham's intent is to full commit to cavalry and Streltsy and not need to build siege. Yes, he's got the high armor, he can come back for it later, but at the beginning of this tech up, with Streltsy being so expensive themselves, it feels like you're kind of being a bit too greedy if you go for both the siege and the gunpowder at the beginning.
Yeah, I agree with you on this one. Probably Springles should take priority over here, because the Horse Archers, they will fare well against the army that Kasva has right now, but you need something that deals with those Mangonels. Stone is also being mined by Wham, so he could go for a Castland. What is he doing? He's walling off the entire map over here. He will wall off the southern sacred sites, and do note that we only have 2 sacred sites on this map, both under the control of Wham, and we could have a very much deja vu-like scenario where it's still 8.5 minutes, but as we have seen in the previous game, that counter can go down to 2 minutes in a blink of an eye.
The timing also frustrates Kasva. He doesn't have that big of a base yet, so if he loses his army, he can't instantly replace it, and Wham is fixing that for himself. He's getting to a stage where he has disposable income and disposable units. He starts to dive in, forces a lot of idle time on the Kasva. I love this move. Wham! He's the one who just teched up. In this situation, you should be the person defensive, but instead, he strikes into the base and tries to draw Kasva back, but Kasva is having none of it. He goes on the offensive, understanding exactly what this play is, and understanding the Horse Archers could do limited damage when having to dive the TC.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Kasva has learned from the previous games. He knows very well that Wham is just doing that to buy himself time, to get the Imperial Age upgrades and get the Streltsy onto the battlefield. Keep now coming in here. Vam has no insight into that stealth forest. He could get caught off guard, but it looks like Kasva is unaware of that keep going up, so he won't reach there in time.
Kasva has no sight of this either, so he's not going to reach the keep in time. The ram is shuffling forward, but by the time it arrives, it can't do enough damage on its own, which means he's going to be stable on the edge here. And there's the bad news. The rams arrive just as the keep goes up. And this is going to delay him.
Even torching down one of those battering rams, even worse, because now you lost one of your rams. And yeah, this Kasva, sure thing, those Horse Archers can't do a tremendous amount of damage diving under the town center, but if you take a look at Kasva's eco, everybody is idle. You're trading army to villager seconds over here, essentially, and that's a fine trade for Vam, because he's sitting on 2 sacred sites, 5 relics, Imperial Age, just waiting for those trolls to be massed. And it's all about the delay game he's once again playing. This is looking really good for Vam right now, because Kasva, he will have to fight against an Imperial Age Rus player, down 5 relics and 2 sacred sites, him being hard stuck in Castle Age.
And it almost looks like Wham is toying with his opponent, but he's not, folks. Like, he needs to delay it this much because look at how slowly that rate of Streltsy is increasing. They take a long time to produce, 35 seconds. I love what Wham has done here. I've watched way too many Roost players rush Imperial with 4 or 5 archer ranges max, and they assume they'll get up to 40 Streltsy in the blink of an eye. It's a very slow process, and their greed cost them so many games. But in this situation, Wham has the perfect read and is now able to start punishing. Kasva trying to dive in with his army of never-ending crap here, but the static defenses plus the Streltsy will hold him at bay. And remember, off the back of this, he still hasn't moved out for the sacred sites. Still 6 minutes to go, but it's reaching pressure point quickly.
It's reaching pressure point, as you said, and the sacred site on the southern side is completely safe, so you only have potential to decap the one on the north. But the thing is that even if you decap it, what's gonna be the price that you pay for such a thing to be done? Because you're still stuck in Castle Age, and as compared to the Roost player, who is now an Imperial, will now have a way better army as well in the favor of Wham. I don't know what Kasva can do here, I'm not gonna lie. This is looking really grim for him.
In some ways, the good news is Kasva has drawn attention away from the front line of this maneuver. The bad news, Lidakor, is it has cost him his main army, and he's not rebuilding his new one quick enough. Look at the military pop cap. They're getting closer, not further apart. Kasva's issue right now is his whole composition relies on mass to win. He doesn't have mass. He's 43 versus 30. I would never call that mass in this situation. And as a result, the Streltsy at this rate are going to break him entirely unless he can switch hard into Mangonels to prep for the ensuing assault coming from Wham.
Well, but even if you prep into Mangonels, you see Springolds are already out there for Wham, so he is one step ahead in that department as well. Looks like the Sacred Site on the northern side is gonna get decapped eventually, but this is buying a lot of time for Wham. It's all about that. Buying time for your Streltsy mass to build it. He's up to 16. He also has a lot of Mangonels himself. He's up to 3, so he's gonna have a good response against the Spearman, the Archer composition as well from Kasva. And Kasva, he's lacking gold big time. We haven't mentioned that. The large gold mines, they are inaccessible to him.
Yeah, and this is his last-ditch play. He needs to shut down the food. If he shuts down the food, maybe he can shut down the Streltsy, but we have to remember that Wham has 2 TCs. Like, his eco is quite big on land. He can transition to farms. It will delay him by a minute or 2, but I don't think much more than that. So whatever Kaz is planning, he needs like a kind of bunny hop effect. This move into another one. It needs to be this into finding a way of denting that keep at the front of the base and get the TC as well. And right now, Wham, he gets in position on the sacred side.
Oh, he could keep it alive. It's gonna be painful.
The mangoes aren't hit. He has no mangoes, so he can't get rid of this Streltsy at all. He's just gonna get wiped. The sacred side is gonna be held. And although the timer is stopped for the moment, it will resume shortly.
Oh, and this is something that matters so much for Wham, because that counter, as you said, it's going to resume. And Kasva had to throw away his entire army to stop this one. You even see the Streltsy going in a melee action, not something that you see every day. Well, I think this might be the first time I see that.
Yes, do you know what the weapon is that they use? Do you know the name of it?
I wouldn't call it a glaive.
It's a bardiche.
Oh, yeah. I know, I played like $1,000 of Mountain Blade, so I was like, I should know the name of that. I mean...
I love the way the cool thing is actually like the shape of the bardiche lets you just use it as a mounting point for the guns as well. That's what they're doing, guys. They aren't just getting like a bipod out or something, but they're using the melee weapon as a stabilization point. I love this.
That's actually pretty cool. All right, back into action we are. Kasva struggling big time over here. The numbers are there for him, but the quality isn't. 2 Bombards, 3 Mangonels, 3 Springolds, and 20 Streltsy against him. And he only has Archers and Spearmen to deal with that. Not a single Mangonel on the battlefield even. And this Buckler is just too little too late, because even destroying the eco of Wham is not going to yield you a victory now, because you don't have the tools to stop a full Imperial Age army of the Rus now.
Just look at his army. Like, he's been outcapped now. This is quality and quantity in favor of Wham. It's the only thing he had going for him. And now with the keeps going up, he can't even sneak a decap. At this stage, like, you know, I hate to sound too defeatist, but Kasva, like, it might just be a quick 3-0. Like, the only way he can recover this is if he sneaks to the south side. That's the only place that's not being guarded right now. Even that, it's just a decap that will delay this. And even if you delay it, right now, you don't have the answer to what Wham's built. You need Mangonels and you need Springolds.
And you need to decap the sacred sites in 3 minutes. That's the thing, right?
Yeah, that's,
like,
that's why he's got a horseman going down there. He's got a horseman now. But like, this is the point. It doesn't matter anymore. Because he'll be held by the scouts. And even if he wasn't, The push is coming. Right now, the issue for Kasva is because he's a 1T player, he doesn't have a big enough wood eco to build the springles to hold this back.
Oh, this is so grim looking for Kasva. The moment he moves out of his base to decap the sacred sites, Vam can just march in. Remember, the Abbasids only have 2 landmarks to work with. Villagers actually making a run for it. There was a castle being dropped on the other sacred site by Kasva, but that's a bit of a long shot, if I may say so. They should never make it out there. Cavalry now coming in from 2 directions, though.
They're going to stand their ground. The Streltsy will win this fight. Gunpowder beat horse. That's the rules of the game here. Mangonels keeping the archers at bay. Will peel back just in time as the Streltsies hold fast. They are the front line, the backbone of the Rus military for good reason as they massacre the Abbasids again. Once again, PopCap lead over to Wham. A minute and 2 away from a Sacred Site victory and no way for Kasva to decap either.
All the cavalry gone, all the infantry gone here. Archers still standing ground, but with no spearmen in front, the knights are now charging in here for Vam, and Kasva simply can't leave his base. He's got no tools to decap that sacred site, and we could see Wham moving into the next round over here. Even the scouts are joining the fun, but the key thing is shown in the bottom left corner is the timer, and now at the top, Vam, with the 3rd point on the board, takes the win in this set 3-0 against Kasva.
And what way to do it? Wham! Back to back to back. No hesitation. Fine plan. Beautiful transitions. That's the key here. This is the thing that allowed Wham to do this so phenomenally. Each time, sidestepping any issue that Kasva presented and approaching it the correct direction, right? We think about game 1. He started with some outpost rushing. He fell back. He understood this fine timing he had. Game 2 was phenomenal. The way he was able to exploit the tech up, the greed of Kasva. And then we come into game 3, where he exploits Kasva's over-focus on the lakes in the corners. This is Wham in his prime. This is what I've been waiting to see. We haven't got a chance to the last few weeks because he's unfortunately fell victim to different people time and time again. But now that we do get to present him on EGC here in the monthly, where it matters most, he looks absolutely dominant over Kasva.
As you said, the key thing here is when it matters the most. Sure thing, we can talk about how Wham got eliminated in the early rounds of the weeklies, but that doesn't matter. He makes it into the monthly regardless of that. And now, when there is 2 tickets to Heidelberg on the line, Wham is playing his best and he moves on to the next round.